Hello and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to teach you how to turn one of these, there are other brands available, into a baby brine shrimp hatchery using just a few simple tools. Items needed then are a soda pop bottle. As I mentioned, other brands are available. This is a 1.5 litre, 2 litres would probably be better. A craft knife, obviously be careful using that. A drill with a 4mm drill bit and either a threaded valve or the other types of valves, the plastic ones. Let me see if I've got one. This type, a glue gun and some airline and valves, and obviously an air pump, or a soda pop bottle and one of these. So I got these off AliExpress. It's got a little seal. It screws onto the bottom of a standard sort of soda pop bottle, and you fit airlines into here and use with valves. So I believe these were off AliExpress. So if you're going to use the original lid, you're going to need to drill it, put a tap in it or a valve, and I'll explain more about sort of cutting these to size, and a glue gun, or one of these off AliExpress, or probably elsewhere you can get those. So how I do these are, I like these because they've got a nice line around the edge, and what I tend to do is just using the knife, I start to score and cut in along that line. This one's slightly out. Once I've got that across that line, I then cut that with a small pair of scissors so it's nice and neat. What I've done, I've cut that top off with a pair of scissors, and I've also removed the small black clip that goes around here, this one, so that can be discarded. Because on this one I'm using this cap, it is simply a case of screwing that cap on tight. And once I've done that, what I want to do is in the top of here, I want to drill a small hole either side. And what this is for is to create a hanger, and I'm going to use green garden wire for that purpose. So let's get these 2 holes drilled, and we'll talk about this cap, the original cap, in a second. Now what I've done, I've drilled a small hole here in that bottle. I could have done it a bit higher up. I've chose to do it a bit further down. And then what I'll do within this hole is, using some green garden wire, I'll create a handle. But before I do that, I want to show you a little trick that I do to protect these holes and stop them from stretching and expanding. And all I do here across those holes is, using a small piece of duct tape, the cloth duct tape, I just place the tape over the hole, make sure that's got a good seal, and then what I'll do is I'll pop my wire that I'm going to use to hang it through that hole, and do the same the other side. Just before adding the hanger, this is my lid, and what I've done is I've drilled a 4.5mm hole and then screw threaded that in. If I was using this end, what I'd do, I'd have a single airline coming in with a splitter and a valve. One feeds air in and one drains out, and obviously you could do it with a single, but you'd need to sort of make sure it doesn't backflow into your air pump. If I was using these, I would also use some hot glue, a glue gun around the edge of there. Likewise, if I was using this type of valve, I'd probably cut the valve shorter, because if the valve went through all the way, let me show you what I mean. If the valve went through all the way, you're going to get a lot of brine shrimp sitting here, so I'd cut that valve shorter. So that's if I was using the original lid, which I'm not. Moving over then, all I'm doing now is I'm adding a piece of wire as a hanger. And I could do this internally, externally, but poking that sharp wire through that hole, and then literally just bending it up to create a hold, and do the same on the other side through that tape. And all the tape's doing, it's just giving it a bit of extra strength. And what that's done, that's given me now a hanger that I can sort of go and hang that somewhere. Because I'm using a double nozzle, I'll have my air pump going in with a non-return valve, and then I'll have a piece of airline coming out with the tap. So once I'm ready to sort of harvest, I close off the air and just drain down some into a net and wash those out. And if I wanted to hang this up on the ceiling, I could use something similar to this. Last but not least then, my sort of recommendations, I use API salt, and it would be 1 teaspoon of salt to half a teaspoon of eggs to a litre of tank water. So you could use tap water, some people do. The recommendation is that you get better results from tank water rather than tap water. Because this is only 1.5 litres, and I don't want this filling up and bubbling over, what I would probably do is I would probably go 3/4 of a litre of water to, you know, I'd sort of calculate it, or I'd do half and I'd work out the calculation. So if it's a teaspoon of salt to 1 litre of water, half a teaspoon of salt would be for half a litre of water, and so on. And likewise with the eggs. So here we have that hanging. I haven't put my airlines on yet, but I've literally just put that onto a screw in the ceiling of the room, and I could put that wherever, you know, I could hang it on whatever I wanted to. To make my mix, I'm using 1 litre of tank water. So you can use tap water, just remember to dechlorinate it if you do. I'm using API aquarium salt, and to that litre I'm adding 2 teaspoons. Dissolve that, and then what I'm going to do is I can use 1 or 2 brine shrimp eggs. Now what I'll do is I'll actually add that into the bottle. So let's give this a stir, make sure this is dissolved, and then I'll add it into a bottle and we'll continue from there. Now I've just hung this on a pegboard over the sink, and what I've got is I've got my drain tube, which I'll use when I want to drain it. And then I've got my airline. Now my airline's feeding into a feed that sort of runs overhead, and as such I don't need a non-return valve in there. But what I'd recommend people is in this feed tube, I'd definitely put a non-return valve, because if you do get a pump failure, you don't want this emptying into your pump. And then we wait. So some people use a light to sort of warm this, but because I've got the room's warm, I don't need that light. I probably could put a few more eggs in, looking at the colour of that, but it will colour up as it sort of as they start to hatch and the babies come out. But we'll leave that for another video. Hope you've enjoyed this short video on how to make a simple brine shrimp hatchery from simple products. I know there's a couple of bits you have to buy if you're using those double valves, but you can make those, or you can use the original lid if you want to. You just need to seal that. If you're not already a sub, please consider subscribing to the channel. It is free and it helps us massively. Keep an eye out for other videos similar about making stuff for your aquarium. And until next time, guys, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.